Election Watch 2024 is where you are at, and it seems that hashtag Namibia Decides 2024 is all we're going to be seeing. We're going to be seeing the results trickling in. You're joined by Diana Master and Matthias Haufiku. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Yeah.
The day has been good.
Has it?
It's been good under the circumstances.
Okay.
We have to be optimistic even when it's so dark,
Yeah.
but let's see how it goes.
Let's see how it goes. So the reason I'm saying is it, I think, is because we've been seeing a lot of videos circulating on social media, particularly about the commotion that was going on earlier at the Electoral Commission of Namibia. And we've actually compiled some videos from earlier on. So let's take a look at those.
This is nonsense. Why are you persecuting free access and not us? You own this building. You have an office here.
And the police.
No.
Told you that
You are going to kill us. You are going to kill us. We are in the lobby. This is nonsense. We are treated like second-class citizens. And Sophia is coming in like an angel. We are in the lobby. Don't tell us. Allow us to speak.
the real criminals are the ones that
Why is she here?
black Mercedes-Benz. Those are the real criminals.
Why is she here?
The corrupt ones in the black Mercedes-Benz. Those are
Hey,
the
the
real
election
criminals.
is messed up already, and you are allowing Sophia to come here freely. Like she owns this building.
There's a time I said that people who used to disturb peace of Namibia, men and women in the uniform. Because when you treat people, treat it as equal. We are here in the capacity of a political party, not a capacity.
Guys, government are decided on by the people.
Yes.
It's the people, not the officials of electoral bodies and government. It's the people.
Please, official people, please excuse us politely. We want our moment. Please, excuse us.
Your meeting was at 12. This is our meeting.
If you are not here, you fail to show up. You failed to show up to our meeting that was supposed to be at 12. We have our meeting as political parties and stakeholders. Can the ECN officials please excuse us? Can the ECN officials and the police excuse us? We came here at 12 as per our agreement. You decided to stay behind closed doors, deploy the police on us. We have our own caucus meeting. We will give the way forward from here. You can't. There's nothing you can do.
All this insult me. Elders are beaten. I will not insult you. Elders are beaten.
Your mother is also a woman.
Yes, she is proud woman.
Yes.
With principle and ethics.
Right, your mother
Don't insult you. I will just deal with you.
Your mother is a woman.
I am unapologetic. Don't insult people.
I'm also
Gathered here this afternoon to express our dissatisfaction with the process in which these elections are being run. The political parties in this room have all agreed that we are going to demand the ECN to cease the counting of votes and also to stop the votes, the current voting process that is taking place at various polling stations across the country. We have been in contact with the ECN trying to establish what actually caused the problems that are denying Namibians their right to cast their votes. And we are not getting any feedback from the ECN. The ECN extended an invitation to political parties and said that we would meet here at 12 o'clock. As I'm addressing the media now at 13:40, the ECN has not spoken to us. We regard this as disrespectful, unprofessional, and unethical of the ECN. They don't take us seriously as political stakeholders, and we're not going to allow that going on any further.
Tensions flying high there, as most of you can see. Now, Matthias, you're actually there earlier. What was the feel like, first-hand experience?
Generally calm at the beginning. Of course, a disclaimer, the meeting never took place.
Okay.
Yeah, it never took place. But when the party leaders arrived, fairly calm, and some of them were open for interviews, and others promised to speak after the meeting. Of course, the media was camping outside. There was high police presence in the area, of course, as expected, due to the nature of the materials that are also being kept there. But generally, an emotion-filled day. You saw there in the videos exactly what transpired. It speaks to the situation on the ground
Yes.
as to what's happening as far as the voting processes are concerned. You've seen that several polling stations across the country were still open well into the morning earlier
Yes,
today.
yes.
I'm not sure now if all of them are closed, but we've not heard an announcement to that effect, because normally the ECN would announce that all the polling stations are now closed. That was supposed to have been done at 9 yesterday evening, but that was not done because the polling stations were open well into the night and into this morning. But there has been a general silence on the part of the ECN, and I think it speaks to the frustrations of the party leaders. Of course, they are direct stakeholders in this process. So it speaks to that and the emotions. They also cannot get through to ECN. They have a lot of questions, but there's no one to answer those questions.
Yes, and now I'm seeing that there's a petition that is doing the rounds on social media because as we can see, and understandably so, people are frustrated. Not just the party leaders, but the Namibian general public is frustrated with the ECN. And of course now Petrus Sharma, who is expected to provide clarity on all election-related matters, is refusing to address this whole situation. How does this then impact public trust?
Well, there's a dark cloud hanging over Namibia at the moment, and as far as elections are concerned, if I have to be particular, because members of the public are also in the dark. People are wondering if the process is challenged in this manner right now, how long would it take to get the results out then?
Exactly.
Would the parties agree to the outcome of this? So there is the challenge that faces the ECN, and I'm sure they are pretty much aware of it, to say that the credibility is being eroded slowly but surely, and their silence is not making it easier. I don't think the situation is too far gone to be salvaged.
Yes.
But the silence sort of makes it just makes it worse.
It makes it worse. And you know, Namibia has been a symbol of peaceful elections in the past. I mean, compared to other African nations. But now with the reports that we've been getting as of yesterday, continuing throughout the day, the chaos at ECN, as we've just seen, and the desperation of people showing up just to cast their vote, the logistical issues of yesterday just seem like the tip of the iceberg.
Most definitely. I've seen a report by one of the other media houses, somewhere in Kunene, where earlier today, members of the community sitting under a tree at the mobile station that never arrived. It was supposed to open at 1400 yesterday, and by today, they were still waiting. And that's how eager people are to vote.
Yes.
24 hours later, they're still waiting for that
They're
mobile
still
station.
waiting, yes.
So it means nothing was communicated to that community. ECN could have communicated to the regional councillor in that area. Say, can you go to this area? We were supposed to be there at 1400. If there's anyone, please let them know this is the situation. We are not coming, or we are coming.
Exactly. And like you're saying, again, it just adds to that frustration. Communication on ECN's part has been lacking, to say the least, right? And now do you seem that with the international raised concerns, because let's be fair, there's been a huge spotlight on these elections in particular. So do you think then, with the incompetence of the ECN in managing this year's elections, is it safe to say then that this has damaged Namibia's democratic reputation globally?
Look, Namibia has always been a model as far as democracy is concerned. We might be a small nation, but the type of leadership we've shown as far as democracy is concerned, even bigger nations look up to Namibia as to how we do things. But what we are seeing right now is uncharacteristic of Namibia. So I don't know how we are sort of going to regain our image as far as this model of democracy, not only in the Commonwealth, but even in the UN system. You will be surprised, as small as Namibia is, our voice carries weight at the UN stage.
Yes, it does. And of course, you are no expert when it comes to, of course, speaking in terms of the economy. But do you think that this is then going to influence international investment and diplomatic relations?
Well, the international community and international investors would have an eye on this. Of course, their due diligence team would be checking as to what's happening. And they would have their people on the ground also. Just to see what's going on the ground, how's the situation. And mind you, the observer teams would also send out reports to their member states. The EU, for instance, they have observed the AU. So they would then have their reports issued and then send out to their member states to say, this is the situation on the ground. From a business perspective, if you are planning to invest in these jurisdictions? These are some of the red flags that are there. Are you willing to take a risk and go there? So everyone's eyes is on this.
Yes.
Of course, as far as SADC is concerned, Namibia and South Africa are key nations as far as trade is concerned, mainly because of the ports. Angola also has a port, but in terms of the stability as far as security is concerned, that has been lacking over the years. So countries such as Botswana, the DRCs, the Zambias, when they ship their goods from whether it's the Americas or Europe, they would use the ports of Namibia or South Africa.
Yes.
I mean, many of those countries have dry ports here in Wolfish Bay. So that's where you see that there's a lot of attention on Namibia currently, not only from the political front, but also from an economic front.
From an economic front. Now, of course, throughout the day, we've been getting reports, right, of people tallying up, well, not necessarily tallying up the votes, but verifying then, so that later on we do get like a full report on the results. And some of those have been trickling in, but one that we have for certain is the Aranos constituency and, of course, foreign missions. Let's just take a look at those results. All right, so as you can see, Aranos 2024 National Assembly votes, total votes 4,171. SWAPO taking 1,546 of those. LPM in second with 1,178. IPC 559 and RP 447. PDM 202. AR 52. Those are the top 6. Thoughts?
Well, as expected, SWAPO and LPM, they would be the kingmakers in that area. They would be the one scrambling for the first place. And LPM, of course, would sort of want to protect its turf. Yeah, remember, that's where they were established. That's their base. So they would want to fend off SWAPO, and SWAPO would want to regain the power that they once had in that area. Because don't forget that the south is an emerging economic hotspot for Namibia as far as diamond mining is concerned. You have Namdeb there. Of course, the offshore oil discoveries, the green hydrogen projects being lined up there at Ludretz. So that area of the south is key, and everyone wants to sort of dominate in that area because it enables you a lot of political capital.
Yes.
Because you then have power to make certain decisions to sort of change the lives of the people on the ground. And that's where your vote comes from 5 years later. Because you can then go back and say, look, we've built clinics and schools here. If you give us a bigger mandate, we'll even do more for you.
Yes.
And that's why you see SWAPO and LPM being neck and neck in those areas. So you'll see not just Aranos, but other constituencies in the south also. It will always be neck and neck between LPM and SWAPO.
Yes.
And the rest would sort of scrape the remaining votes and share them amongst themselves.
I see. Okay, and then in terms of now the presidential candidates, yes, so when it comes to that, because earlier on when Jareen and Aina were on, they did mention the possibility of a presidential runoff. Is this what we are seeing?
It's still very premature. Of course, as much as the results sort of look very, very closely aligned, if you also look at the results that started trickling in, it's mostly your urban sort of centers where leaders such as Panduleni Itula have done well in the past. But there is also what they call that rural vote, where SWAPO and its candidates would normally, once that vote comes in, it sort of changes everything. So it will be interesting to see how things go. But for now, it looks very close, neck and neck, especially between the SWAPO presidential candidate and the IPC presidential candidate. Those are neck and neck. But there's a lot of dynamics. It's still very, very early days. So, but it'll be interesting to see how things play out.
It will be interesting to see, I think, particularly because we've only, as you can see on your screens there, these are the polling results to date. SWAPO with 49% and the opposition 51% of the votes. So I think, generally speaking, we are going to be seeing a lot happen, a lot develop, but the issue now is when exactly are we going to get all of these results? Because during the course of the day, we are still getting reports that people are still verifying.
People are still voting.
People are still voting in some of these areas. So then now this begs the question, what's going to happen? What next?
I think we must brace ourselves for a very long delay as far as the official result announcement is concerned, because there are too many issues still happening in the background.
Still lurking, yes.
Remember, the results must still come from the regions to the main coalition center in Windhoek, and it must still be verified here. That is a process in itself. So an ECN should, and I'm hoping that they are sort of preparing a sort of roadmap, at least for the interim, to say this is how we are going to do things, just to sort of inspire a bit of confidence to say it's not business as usual. We understand the situation, but we are planning on improving.
Yes, we're planning on improving. So as you can see on the right-hand screen there, National Assembly 2024, these are the top three. Swapper Party, 2,246, LPM, 1,230, 1,104 for the IPC. These are the constituencies, one constituency out of 121.
Well, early days, very, very early days.
Very early days. But then the thing is, Matthias, with these logistical challenges that we've been facing, do you think this is also going to impact now that timeline on when we're going to get the final results?
Well, it depends how much longer they keep the polls open and how much longer they allow those who didn't vote to vote. So that would determine that. I'm also not sure what verification systems they have at the main coalition center. But if it's the same as the ones they had in the past, how they verify ballots by counting one by one, I'm pretty much looking at anything between 5 to 10 days.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. And should there be now a runoff, it needs to happen within 60 days, correct?
It's definitely 60 days.
And if the ECN had this long to plan for these elections, now with 60 days, I'm pretty sure it's going to be... do you think they might be ready? Did they take lessons from this, perhaps?
It'll be interesting to see. Your first thought is always resource availability. ECN went into these elections crippling. Whether it's due to their poor planning, poor budgeting, we wouldn't know. But we know that as far as a week back, they were putting out adverts
for vehicles.
For vehicles,
yes.
For things such as tables and chairs. That is a sign of an institution that's struggling financially. So where would the resources come from for a runoff?
That is a good question.
Within 60 days.
Within 60 days. And now already the public is demanding to know where all of the money went. What happened with the budget? That's what the public wants to find out. And that's where the issue is.
Yeah. To be fair to ECN, they've said during the course of the year, and I remember even when they met the president earlier this year, they said they were in need of about an additional 60 million to sort of implement and execute their entire plan. So I wouldn't be surprised if they hide behind this as to say this is the reason why things
we needed more money.
This is why things are as shambolic as they are. I wouldn't be surprised if they hide behind that.
But then, Matthias, no answer is also an answer. Because they're not addressing the public, they're not addressing the concerns of the public, they're not addressing the fact that the public is disgruntled. So what's going to happen now? Because what are the implications of the ECN CEO avoiding such critical questions, especially during a time of heightened political tension?
It just shows the level of respect they have for their stakeholders, which are the voters in this case. Because you need to take your stakeholders into confidence when you are facing a crisis. Maybe there is one of the NGOs or who has a potential solution to what they're going through now, as far as even a crisis management plan is concerned. Because those things seem to be non-existent at the ECN today. Even when we were there today, all the officials are just in their offices. It's like business as usual. You don't see any movement. It's more members of the public and the police officers running around there.
There's no sense of urgency.
There
but
is
Matthias,
no sense of urgency.
We'll continue this conversation. For now, we'll be taking a quick ad break and discussing more, especially when it comes to the results, right after.
Hi, welcome to We Talk, your weekly hub for inspiring stories and community highlights. In Talk of the Town, we bring you the latest news from Windhoek and the surrounding towns. Need weekend plans? The We Chill segment has the coolest and best events lined up for you. For all the foodies, We Dine explores the hottest dining spots, and for We Do Business, we celebrate the inspiring entrepreneurs. Finally, We Care celebrates the heroes making a difference in their communities. So don't forget to catch We Talk every Thursday at 1:30 p.m. on DSTV channel 285 and GoTV channel 25. You can also stream it on oneup2.com. So don't miss We Talk.
Only free range. What's right for our laying hens is right for you. Only local, never imported. Only date-stamped eggshells so you know it's still fresh. The only eggs to choose.
You are still with Election Watch. Now, Matthias, we do have some important information to share with our viewers.
Yeah, of course, as the results trickle in from the polling stations, what we're showing here, especially the ones on the screen from Aranos, it's not the entire constituency.
Yes.
So it's keeping you up to date as information trickle in. So we don't leave the public hanging. We say that we wait for a constituency for the overall results to come in before we make it public. Then we are being ECN. So we need to keep them abreast so they can also keep their tally to say, so once the final result comes, they can also go back to their records and say, but this is what you guys said, how come it's not telling?
Yeah.
So that's why it's important to sort of keep a flow of results as they come in.
Yeah, because I think particularly people are seeing, you know, the results from the polling stations making the rounds on social media, and they are under the impression that these are the final results from these constituencies, and these are not, because the collation centers still need to give us those final results. And right now, Aranos, we have those perfect, Aranos is the one that gave us the final results.
Yeah, because you must remember that the polling stations, and there's about, I think, about 4,500 of them. Yeah? So those ones, once you are done at the polling station, you then have to put up the results, except for the mobile ones, where the mobile team has to finalize, and at the last point, that's where they put it up. So that's why I indicated earlier on that the polling stations is not, it doesn't equate to the constituency's
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I
so
think
they
it's
would then be
important
collated to make up the final
to make
number.
up the final. So please we do need to emphasize this point that yes, what you are seeing on social media right now, these are not the final results from the constituencies. And again, this is why Election Watch is here, to give you all these results as they come. But again, please do save our chatbot number 085-785-6231, and then you can just WhatsApp #elections and you can get all the results as they come. And then if we get any constituencies finalizing their results, we'll also be updating you as it happens. Now, earlier on, we were talking about the commotion that was happening at the ECN. And the ECN particularly has been criticized for lack of transparency in the past. Could this incident then deepen existing perceptions of institutional inefficiency or bias?
Well, the one thing about the perception and reality is that perception is at times, and at times like this at the ECN, is as good as reality. Yeah, because they're enabling that. And what I don't understand is that they've had such a lovely working relationship, that's ECN and the parties. They even formed a party liaison committee where ECN officials and party officials would sit on a general basis to sort of take stock of the electoral calendar. Where are we? How are we doing? What are the challenges? And it worked well during the course of the year. I don't know why they changed that formula. And today, all of a sudden, they couldn't even sit around one table.
Yes.
So that's the level of frustration that
people
currently
have.
exists.
But then now, do you see why? Especially on social media, if you're going around, and particularly on Twitter, if you are taking a look at some of these tweets, people actually think that the ECN, it seems that the information is getting lost, that the ECN is an independent body. People now think that the ECN is being run by SWAPO. And there's a lot of speculation saying that this was all a tactic. This has been, they're claiming, this is what the internet is saying, that they're claiming that SWAPO, this is SWAPO's technique to frustrate voters. Yeah.
Well, nature never leaves room for a vacuum. And that's where these sort of conspiracies and rumors would come from. But since this whole saga started, my view has always been this. All the parties, I believe, are equally affected by this. Because there's no way you can assume that the members who were deprived from voting are Party A members.
Yes.
Or those who voted are only Party B members. What if it so happens that most of the people who didn't vote are actually SWAPO members?
I
How would that narrative change?
I see what you mean.
Yeah?
But then now the thing is, Matthias, what's going to happen, because a lot of the parties are saying that they're going to dispute the results. Is this going to be, like, I need to ask from your perspective, is this something that we're going to actually see happen, or do you think this is just a threat? What does this look like?
One thing I know from the onset is this process will not be set aside. As far as our constitution is concerned, and if past cases are anything to go by, and there's been challenges to set elections aside in the past, and you must have a very, very, very compelling reason for that to happen. I don't see that happening. I don't think it will happen. I don't think it's good for our democracy for that to happen. These are administrative processes gone wrong. But the impact is so huge, and that's why everyone is going haywire about the situation. But are there any remedial measures to this? Because no matter how the results look like once they're officially announced, there will be disgruntled parties.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Hypothetically, if SWAPO wins but they don't get a two-thirds, they would say, you see, ECN, you cost us a two-thirds. Or opposition parties would say, yes, ECN, you see how close the results were. If it were not for those mistakes, we would have done better. So you see, no one will be happy.
No one will be happy, but then again, because of the general consensus surrounding this, like I was saying earlier, people already think that this is SWAPO's tactic. So they're looking to then challenge these results. Let's say they actually do challenge these results. Then what's going to happen after that?
I would actually like it for them to challenge the results. Why am I saying that? If you look at the 2019 elections, yeah, where the court indicted the use of ballot of EVMs without a verifiable paper trail. So what that judgment did, it sort of wrapped ECN on the knuckles to say there were many administrative glitches on your part, so you need to improve on your electoral management system. So that's what court cases do. They sort of help open our eyes as to what needs to be done and how things need to be improved to ensure that after 5 years, we don't find ourselves back here again.
Yeah.
So if there's a challenge, that's the sort of positive spin I'll take from this.
I see. And, bringing it back to this now, electronic voting machines, do you think Namibia can then balance adopting modern technologies while ensuring transparency to meet international standards? Because this is what most people are scared of.
Yeah, most definitely. We've had the resources in the past to sort of cross the digital line from manual to automated systems. Most of our leaders are well traveled, and they've seen, some of them have been observers at elections in other jurisdictions where technology is fully embraced as far as voting patterns are concerned. So I just don't know where this hesitancy is coming from. We did well with the EVMs, apart from the paper trail that wasn't there. Generally, there was a level of control. There was a level of swiftness in the process. We're back in the Stone Age again.
We're back in the Stone Age again, but do you think that this election, again, could be, I don't know, it could highlight why? Because if tablets were glitching, could this be then why people are saying, yeah, no, if we couldn't even manage something as small as tablets, what about EVMs?
But it's a management and planning process. Yeah?
They had so much time to plan, and yet they didn't.
Well, they had a roadmap. I don't know where they fell off the road.
They got lost somewhere.
Yeah, they got lost somewhere. But that cannot be an excuse not to evolve. Yeah, there are risks to any systems. There are risks to anything you do in life. It's how you manage those risks. How do you prepare for any eventual or potential calamity? That's what they should prepare for. Do we send our teams with extra tablets, with extra batteries, extra generators? Those are the things that you should preoccupy yourself with. Not to say, what if? Yes, what if
I
is
think
always going to be
contingency
there.
plans are absolutely important, especially with something as big as National Assembly and presidential elections. It's something so crucial.
Most definitely. Because you see, during election or during the run-up to the election year, ECN would normally get the attention they want, especially when it comes to knocking on the doors of Treasury. I sort of feel that they are not convincing enough when they sit with the finance minister and sort of motivate their budget. And that's why you always see the last 3-4 elections, they never get the budget they ask for. But why? It's a motivation factor.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes, I think it's something that needs to be looked into. But we'll continue this conversation just after this. For now, we're going to be talking to Nikano Nangolo, who is covering the Kavango West and East regions. Nikano, how are you?
Hi guys.
How are you doing?
It's a bit sunny, but we're doing fine. We're still waiting on majority of the results. So far, we only have the results from one coalition center at the Kapako in the Kavango West, and is leading with 268 votes, followed by IPC. IPC is Itula with 88 votes. And then Venani and Job Ampanda, they're closely contesting with Venani having 14 and Job having 13. And as by the
It seems we have lost Nikano there, but he was giving us just a rundown. And again, just to specify that these are not the final results that you are hearing. These are just as we wait for them to finalize. But so far, this is what we're seeing as they're tallying up the results.
Yeah, most definitely. From the polling stations, you'll see there'll be a lot of variances. Kavango West, where Nicanor was talking from, is predominantly a SWAPO stronghold. PDM would also then come into that fray there. IPC now, of course, is the first time they are contesting in the National Assembly elections, but they seem to be having footprints all over the country. Yeah, they seem to be in the top 3 in most of the polling station results that we've seen so far. So for a new kid on the block, as far as parliamentary elections is concerned, I think they're doing
They're doing pretty well. And, you know, reports from organizations such as the Commonwealth and the Africa Center for Strategic Studies are emphasizing the decreasing dominance of SWAPO and the rise of opposition movements, which is basically what you were saying earlier. How are these shifts being interpreted internationally, and what could they mean for Namibia's political alliances in the region?
See, in terms of political alliances, there's been this sort of strong bond amongst the liberation movements within SADC. And because of this bond, the opposition has over the years struggled to really make a breakthrough at the polls because these movements support each other wholesomely from a financial perspective, from a human resource perspective, training perspective. So it runs so deep. And elections is a very costly process.
Yes.
And you'll see the difference, and I'm sure you've seen it during the past 30 days or so, the difference between SWAPO rallies and rallies of the opposition parties. There's a big difference.
Massive difference, yes.
And it boils down to financing.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
and I think this is why then it would be unrealistic to say there would be another election so soon.
Yes, most definitely. Most of the parties were scraping for funds. Some of them, especially the opposition parties, had to sort of get funds from their members in parliament. Yeah, a portion of their salaries to fund the party's campaigns. Jeez. And of course there is the parliamentary budget, but still it's not enough to crisscross the country, because what you want is political parties that are not region based, because we want to do away with regionalism. So you want parties to go all over the country, but it's a costly exercise.
It is a costly exercise. And you know what, like we were saying earlier, results are trickling in, but for updated results, you can visit elections.my.na, and we'll be giving you all the updated results as they come. NTV is a place you want to be. Elections.my.na is also where you want to be. The information is right there on your screen. Again, that's elections.my.na for updated results the whole night. So Matthias, it's crazy. Okay, so right now on our screens, we're saying National Assembly votes per region. These are the region totals. SWAPO 37%, IPC 13.38%, PDM 4.83%, LPM 28.20%. Yes, AR with 1.24%. Yes.
Well, there's going to be a shift within the opposition ranks. As much as everyone is keen to see how close the opposition will get to SWAPO or whether they'll overtake SWAPO. Within the opposition themselves, there is a scramble. Make no mistake. Yeah, there is a scramble. And since the introduction of the title of the office of the official opposition leader, which is currently being manned by Honorable McHenry Venani, that's an office that comes with a big budget. So as opposition parties, many of them would be eyeing that. And of course, analysts have made their predictions to say, look, these polls, especially the National Assembly polls, would be determined by 4 to 5 parties. The rest would really be scraping off the ground. But it will be interesting to see, because you might have noticed that during the run-up to the campaigns, all the opposition parties were targeting SWAPO.
Yes.
Yeah, they hardly target each other.
Yes.
So they're sort of campaigning within a block. But when it comes to the results, that's where you'll see the differences. Yeah, some of them will fade. Some of them will fade. I think at the moment there are about 10 parties in the National Assembly, and we have 21 on the ballot paper. Yeah?
Yeah.
There's only 96 seats on offer.
Jeez. So like you're saying, yes, the scrambling, we are going to be seeing that, and it's probably happening as we speak.
Most definitely.
Yes.
Yeah, most definitely. Because for voters, voting for someone, you want to vote for someone who's going to tackle your bread and butter issues. For the politicians, this is their bread and butter issues.
Yes.
Will I be in parliament? If I'm not in parliament, how will I sustain myself between 2024 and 2029? See, that's where you see a lot of parties becoming dormant. Because most of the party leaders depend on that parliamentary budget and allocation for their party sustainability.
Okay, let's bring it back to now the international focus that is on these elections. What role should international partners and observers play in improving future elections? I mean, we already saw Ian Khama calling on the SADC to basically expel and sanction Zimbabwe if found to have interfered in these elections.
Yeah, most definitely. Look, the global multilateral system is designed in such a way that nations have the ability to benchmark. Yeah, you can benchmark downwards or you can benchmark upwards. So what you've seen with especially African governments, our benchmark depends on the narrative we are pushing. Yeah, if we want to bolster our narrative on service delivery, we'd say we are doing better than most of the African countries. Yeah, but when the nation says, but why don't you measure us against more developed countries? Why must we always benchmark ourselves downwards? And that's where the benchmarks comes in. And now you'll see that for countries like Namibia, there's a lot to learn when other nations have their elections. Of course, we don't want any interference. That's why you have this sort of observer setup where nations or international bodies or continental bodies can send in observer teams to see how things are done. Those observer teams are not only there to ensure that things are done correctly, but it's also lessons that are being learned there to also go and implement it in other jurisdictions. To say, this is how these elections worked in Namibia, and this is the outcome. I think other nations can also learn from this. So it's very important that we have these sort of relationships as far as observing processes in other jurisdictions are concerned. As far as interference and intervention is concerned, it's really my hope that each nation respects the sovereignty of the other, and they should really just focus on the mandate that they're there for.
Okay, yes. I totally agree with you. And we do have a bit more to discuss. But for now, let's cross on over to the Irongo region to talk to Leandria and see what's going on that side.
Good morning, viewers. Leandria reporting here from Walfish Bay. Now, basically here in Walfish Bay, we have two coalition centers. One is for Walfish Bay Rural. I'm currently here at the Lutheran Church Hall, and then we have Walfish Bay Urban, which is situated at Dynasig High School in Quisopmont. Now, coming from Dynasig Combined School, the returning officer said that they are expecting teams to be arriving with the ballot papers or with their results from around 12 here at the Lutheran Church Hall. Mobile teams, some of the mobile teams have already arrived at the coalition center, but not all of them yet. and we are expecting other teams, the fixed points, to only arrive a bit later. So driving just around town, we can see it's business as usual. You wouldn't think that yesterday was elections because everything is calm, everything is peaceful. Voting is continuing at 2 different polling stations here in Walvish Bay. The last vote was cast around 1:30 or 2 o'clock this morning.
Now, earlier on, we took a results at the Aranos constituencies of results because those have been finalized. Now, let's take a look at the foreign mission results, starting with the National Assembly. Okay, while we're waiting for those to come up on the screen, what are you thinking when it comes to the foreign missions?
Yeah, very interesting. Namibians in the diaspora always have a different view on what home is or what home should be like. So their voting patterns would generally be different from those of us who are back home. And you've seen the preliminary results that came out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Those were a determining factor, I would say. So as you can see there, Foreign Missions 2024 National Assembly votes. Total number of votes was 1,762. SWAPO taking 700, IPC in second with 545, AR 254, PDM 112, LPM 52, and NEFF 21. These are again just the top 6. You can see the rest of the votes there on your screens.
Well, stats don't lie. As much as SWAPO is leading,
yes,
if you sort of compare them to the opposition vote, you see that they don't have the majority in the diaspora.
In the diaspora,
yeah,
yes, because there were certain places where Itula was leading and then certain places where Nandi Ndaitwah was leading. So again, these are not the final results, but these are the results as we have them. Let's actually take a look at the presidential results. Those will be shortly on your screen. Again, we were just discussing the fact that depending on where you are. So as you can see there, these are the Foreign Missions 2024 presidential results. Total number of votes, 1,728. Nandi Ndaitwah taking 816. Itula in second, 629. Amopanda, 128. Vanani, 73. Swartboy, 31. Is this a surprise? Are you surprised with these results?
Well, it hangs in the balance.
Okay.
It hangs in the balance because you'll see that LPM is sort of, and most of the opposition parties, I think they are just in the presidential race, sort of not to be seen as not having confidence in their own abilities, but National Assembly is where their actual attention is.
That's where they're eyeing.
Yes, that's where they're eyeing. And you'll see that, especially between Itula and Nandi Ndaitwah, and you'll see that Nandi Ndaitwah sort of has this SWAPO, big SWAPO banner behind her, and hence her popularity. As for Itula, he's bigger than his organization.
Yes.
Unlike Netumbo, it's vice versa.
Yes.
So Netumbo has this SWAPO pillow to sort of lie
cushion
on.
her,
yeah?
yes.
Yeah, and then Itula is sort of, he's the one pulling the entire cart. So if he's not moving, the organization would not move. And that is the difference. So you could see that the results are close as they are trickling in. But if you look at those trickling in from the current election, from the main election, there's sort of a big difference. So people in the diaspora, you could say they sort of want something different.
Yeah, they're looking to get something different. And just to bring it back to that point of Itula, I mean, with the last election results, that was quite significant considering he was running as an independent candidate.
Yeah, most definitely. It came as a surprise to many. Of course, he didn't win, but the fight he put up gave him that confidence to say, well, next time I'm gonna form my organization.
Yes.
And that will help bolster everything. Because in 2019, I still like to believe that his biggest sort of, not downfall per se, but affected him negatively was because he didn't have that political home, that backing, that base behind him. So this time around, that is there. And if he had 5 years to sort of put his message across. So we'll see how things pan out during the coming days.
Now, Matthias, apart from him starting his own party, what else do you think Itula has done differently for this election?
Well, it's charismatic politics, yeah? And you can see when he's out there in the streets, the public sorts of resonates with him. You can see on social media, he's all over the place. Even those who would not ideally vote for him, yeah, they would still be interested in hearing about his narrative or or the activities he's busy with, because he's been all over the country and he's been getting audience across the country. So you can see that he brought a different dynamics to this. It's more like the church. Yeah, the old traditional church and the new sort of Pentecostal churches. Yeah, the traditional ones, you'd go to church and you'll be watching
That's
the
what
pastor
you know.
preaching.
Yes.
That's what you know.
Yes.
It's amen. It's
Yes.
it. And while the new churches is more active, and
There's
they sort of
excitement.
resonate more with the youth. And it's the same. I'm not saying it's going to transcend directly, but there are similarities.
There are definitely similarities, and I think what you're saying there about the charismatic aspect, because if we take a look again on social media, because I've been spending a lot of time on social media just to see what the public think and what the general consensus is. People are saying that yes, Itula's ability to go out there and be dancing with the public shows that yes, he is still fit, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, most definitely. One thing he did, and I still think one thing he did very well, is to read the room. He sort of mastered, say, what do the people actually want? When I go on the stage, what is it that I should give them to sort of give me that edge over my opponents?
Yes.
And that is sort of working in his favor. I'm looking to see how he'll perform, but it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy. You've seen how SWAPO also changed their campaign tactics, their rallies. There's been a change compared to those in the past.
This time around, I think they were more focused on the youth, because the youth were again taking majority. Well, they were making up the majority of the voters, first-time voters, the young voters. So they were trying to appeal to them more. So I guess this then changed their tactic.
You have to, because you have to align based on your audience. Their old ways of doing things, it didn't work anymore. Yeah, you saw in 2019 it almost cost them.
Yes.
Yeah, it almost cost them compared to 2014. So I think their internal planning machinery saw that we need to do things differently. Otherwise, things would not turn out the way we want them to be. Of course, the ruling party wants to reclaim its two-third majority. But let's see how it goes.
Let's see how it goes. Let's see how it goes. I mean, then again, the thing with elections is things could suddenly shift the last minute.
Yeah, most definitely. One thing about elections and results trickling in is that it sort of gives you a false impression at the beginning to say, we're doing well. Oh, we're not doing well. And then there comes a tilting point where things just shift. Like, okay, what happened?
What happened? Exactly.
Yeah?
In the blink of an eye, things can shift.
Yeah, we saw last time around in 2019, the opposition parties were sort of neck and neck with SWAPO until the northern vote came in. And it just blew everyone away. So those are the dynamics of politics. Those are the dynamics of jurisdiction politics. Because every party has a base. You know where your base is. As much as you want to have that national appeal, all those parties, they know where their traditional base is. Yeah.
I see. And then just to move from the parties for now and just switching it back to the ECN. Again, like I was saying, there's been a lot of logistical challenges. There have definitely been a lot of issues with the ECN. And now there have been calls on social media for the whole ECN to just have a redo in terms of, you know, how, like, everybody from top to bottom.
Well, that's
of course, this is not realistic, but again, this is what people are saying on social media.
Yeah. I mean, there's been also widespread calls for the ECN commissioners to resign.
To step down, yes.
Yeah, but we are in the middle of a very important process. I think there's a lot to learn from this process. It's not an ideal process that one would want to find yourself, but we need to build on this going forward so that we don't find ourselves in this ditch again. Yeah, whatever we think ECN is doing that they're not doing, we need to sort of have that in our Bible to say, guys, there's no way we can come back here again in the future. So there is a good omen in it.
So we're going to play the update Back to Election Watch. We do apologize for that technical glitch. As I was saying before that, we do have an update from the ECN. Let's see what they have to say.
We've just concluded our meeting. The second meeting we've had now was to brief our principals of political parties on what transpired earlier during the day. The idea now, or the next step really, is for our principals to get together, because some principals could not make it this afternoon, but they're going to get together and then pave the way forward, put their actions together, and we will be able to give you a better position between either late tonight or early tomorrow once the principals have agreed on what way forward to take. So that is really where we are. This was just a briefing meeting of our principals. We've still not heard from the ECN. We've had no feedback from the ECN, not even acknowledgement of our letters that we've written. So we are looking forward. Hopefully we'll hear back from the ECN. But now that we've escalated the matter to our principals of political parties, and they'll be able to communicate moving forward. Thank you very much.
Okay, it's fine. Has been the update from the ECN. Matthias, what are your thoughts there, as briefly as you can?
Well, the parties are saying it's almost, what's the time now? 5, 6, 7 o'clock?
Yes, it's almost 6 o'clock.
And they say they've heard nothing from the ECN till now, and the party leaders would meet there and then pave the way forward and communicate to the public. So the silence continues into the night.
The silence continues into the night, but NTV is where you can catch the action. You can also save our Synergy chatbot number 085-785-6231 for all the election updates. And you can also visit elections.my.na for all the results as they come. For me, Diana Master, and Matthias Haufiku, thank you so very much for joining us today.